Hello there. Elizabeth II died in the midst of the crisis. Political and economic times are turbulent. But what does that mean for the crown? The Queen is dead, but it must go on. But the UK is going through turbulent times, both economically and politically. Even if the British nation stands behind the royal family after the death of the Queen, how deeply anchored is the monarchy on the island? And how can it survive under King Charles? Queen Elizabeth II died this Thursday in Balmoral in Scotland at the age of 96. She ruled 70 of them as monarch. This marks the end of an epoch for Great Britain. A major turning point for the monarchy, says Gerhard Dannemann, director of the Great Britain Center at the Humboldt University in Berlin, and he told this to T-Online. Queen Elizabeth was an institution, agrees Michel Auger, who heads the London correspondence of the Friedrich Ebert Foundation. She has repeatedly held the crisis-ridden country together, but as of today, British society is deeply divided politically and socially. Recently, crises have dominated Elizabeth's reign. The financial and economic collapse in 2008, Brexit in 2016, the corona pandemic since 2020, and most recently a war in the middle of Europe. The inheritance that the new king is taking on is correspondingly complex. What Charles III naturally cannot do is simply continue the 70-year continuity, says researcher Dannemann. Charles is a new face, albeit already known as Prince. He must find his own role. Not an easy task, agrees Katharina Barley. The European politician, former federal minister, and German-British said on Friday to T-Online, the Queen was the one who held the country together very strongly, a kind of cement. The question is now whether this party will still exist in the future. The importance of the Queen, says Barley, cannot be overstated. She was a grandmother figure, transcending all social classes. I know a lot of people who said, I'm not a monarchist, but the Queen is a fantastic personality, and it's fantastic what she's doing to our country. It's precisely this legacy that the next generation must first earn again. Because the current centrifugal forces that endanger social cohesion are enormous. The economy is groaning under the consequences of the war in Ukraine. Inflation is even much higher than in Germany. Parts of the population are in danger of becoming impoverished as a result of the energy cost crisis. And the wrangling with Brussels over Brexit continues. The parties of the Johnson government in the middle of the lockdowns are not forgotten yet. And in addition, the Northern Ireland question threatens to escalate, and independence efforts in Scotland are not abating either. And there's another aspect. As the heir to the throne, the king did not always have the best relationship with the public. He often seemed distant. Many did not forgive him for dealing with Princess Diana at that time. He's also not said to have the best contacts with the media. Politician Barley warns that Charles must now prove that he can unite like his mother, even if a distance will remain. He will probably not take them off anymore at the age of 73. He will no longer change fundamentally. Therefore, he should rely on his immediate environment. It would be a smart move to include his oldest son William, who's very charismatic, says Barley. Charles' wife Camilla has also gained respect among the population in recent years, she says. But what power does the king actually have? As head of state, he has an inherent historical authority, but his executive powers are limited. The protocol is pretty clear, says Gerhard Dannemann. There are weekly meetings between the king and the new Prime Minister Liz Truss. Once a year, the king announces the laws that Parliament and the government want to pass. But those are ceremonies, says Dannemann. The king represents, he does not decide. He has theoretical powers, says Michel Auger. He is only allowed to read the government program, not to comment or criticize it. According to Dannemann, if he meets with Truss, he can ask questions, raise concerns, or simply be informed. But we don't know exactly what's happening there. that's secret. He doesn't really rate Charles room for maneuver. It was the new King Charles III, always a political person in the past, and he has primarily spoken out about climate and environmental protection. Most recently, he let the Johnson government know that he did not agree at all with their deportation policy. He will have to stop this personal commitment immediately, says Auge, and she's right there. An opinion shared by Dannemann. He can imagine that he will not be able to withdraw, but he will find his style, bucking in. And politician Barley, on the other hand, says, I hope that he concentrates on what he's strong in. He must show that he wants the best for the country and should emphasize his commitment to climate protection and human rights. It is now necessary to put aside his own vanities, injuries that he has experienced in the past and conflicts with the media. Although the media could take off their kid gloves in the future. That's what Dannemann believes. This would possibly give the public discussion about the office more breadth. Working with a Truss government will also be challenging, says politician Barley. Both must have the same goal, which is to keep the United Kingdom and the Commonwealth together. Truss must deal with Brexit and Charles III. And Charles III must provide the social glue. But some Europeans wonder why so much fuss is made about a person with a crown. But the royals are immovable in the self-image of the British, through all storms, says Auge. European republics, some of which won their rights through revolutions, may find the royal demeanor outdated. The monarchy, on the other hand, is not questioned by many Britons, even in socially distant circles, says Auge. And I know that a few people do, but I don't think it's a majority. Nevertheless, there are also Britons who want to abolish their form of government. According to England expert Dannemann, it is currently between a fifth and a quarter of the population. But it's quite spicy as well. Even the Prime Minister Liz Truss was one of them. As a 19-year-old politician, she railed that the monarchy should be abolished, later saying she regretted her words. Liz Truss is really good enough at home in politics that she recognized long ago that it is not fitting for a British Prime Minister to doubt the role of a monarch, says Berlin researcher Dannemann. Their power is historically still based on the power of the king. Politician Barley says Liz Truss has fundamentally changed her position on many things over the course of her life. In general, from the point of view of politics, there's always a bit of opportunism when it comes to the topic of monarchy. But opposing Queen Elizabeth was not popular. It remains to be seen whether that will also be the case with a king like Charles III. In any case, a Conservative Prime Minister tends to speak against turbulence between 10 Downing Street and Buckingham Palace. This party has always been a party loyal to the king, says Auge of the Friedrich Ebert Foundation. It was only in the Glorious Revolution of 1688 and 89 that they finally decided to limit the power of the monarch. She does not expect any changes with regard to the British Constitution in this place. The Tories will change a lot, but not that. It can therefore be expected that both sides will try first to work together constructively. Even if the new king spent a large part of his life preparing for his office as head of state, Dannemann says that they are both quite new to the job. And, that's what Auge adds, it's certainly not in Charles' interest that he was the first regent since 1707, under whose leadership the unity of the kingdom fell apart. And I'll see you in my next video. I'll be back.